There's a few things that excite me in life. Airplanes, cute doggos, and watching Brian Phillips scream at me through my screen with this filter on.
Here, Tim, it's Brian Phillips! We've got something new and super exciting for you!
Unfortunately, you'll probably notice that the E-Flite RV-7 wasn't on that list. It's not bad by any means, but the best way we can describe it is as the equivalent of Kim Kardashian if she were an RC airplane. Half-witted and not particularly good at anything, but a decent looker though. We'll get more into that later. There is one thing we love to death about this airplane, enabling reverse thrust to land and in midair.
What the hell is even that?
This is a real head turner at any RC field, and it's something we haven't been able to do with significant effect on any other airplanes we've owned while in flight. We'll call this the band-aid of the aircraft. It's a saving grace to us. Let's jump back and start on the ground with this one. As with any aircraft from Horizon, assembling it was a breeze. We love the quick wing connectors, although this aircraft is small enough to fit into about any car with the wing sill on. We opted to adjust our servos for maximum travel and ditch the stock receiver for an AR620. Sorry AS3X, but I don't think we'll need you with this one. We did find that as with a lot of spinner backplates, it was tough to get the prop tight to our liking. She still did stay on fine despite the slipping, unless if you did a little bit too much reverse thrust. Oh, yeah, there it goes. As far as expo, I set up around 40% all around, and then added a bit more on the rudder to about 60% because she's more sensitive than the RC sailors receiving feedback from their audience.
No rational person would do as you have done. Explain yourself.
Getting her into the air takes no effort. If you're the lazy pilot, you can punch the throttle and she'll find her way into the air one way or another. If you're like us and like to gradually ease in the power, you'll notice she gets airborne before you even reach full power, as with most RC models. In previous videos, we've talked about applying forward pressure on takeoff with tail wheels. With this model, less is more on this front, unless you feel like striking out your prop. As we said before, the rudder can be a bit touchy, so keeping your input small is recommended during critical stages of flight, such as the takeoff. This is one aspect of the plane we enjoy a lot, because without a good challenge, this hobby can become as stale as the average person's age in it. Speaking of, we've had a couple of problems with this aircraft right out of the box. After some time, our flap servo failed like expecting a Spirit Airlines flight to depart on time. After the flap failure, we haven't got around to replacing the servo, but once we do reach out to Horizon, we're positive they'll replace it. The tape we had to peel back to inspect the servo didn't stick back well, so you may see and hear some of the footage with that stuff flapping around in the breeze. Unfortunately, we also had a rudder servo skip a gear from a firm 3-point landing. Surprisingly, I was able to snap it back into center and it flew fine again, but it was a bummer either way. RIP. Another issue we had was that our elevators were not aligned after being linked together with the plastic joiner tube during assembly. This wasn't something we noticed in flight necessarily, but it was a bummer to see out of the box. It's kind of like when your parents say they're not mad, but just disappointed. You get the idea. Once she's in the air, we best enjoy the aircraft by doing precision aerobatics. This is really where she shines.
We're here!
As far as 3D though, well, let's just say you'd have a better time attaching a helium balloon to a 6-year-old and expecting him to hover. This is definitely one of the most difficult airplanes I've ever hovered, or more specifically, torque rolled. When you combine small tail surfaces with an airplane that's already nose-heavy by default, is short-coupled, and has a relatively large-sized prop in comparison to the airframe size, well, you get a torque-rolling monster that's incredibly difficult to tame. To clarify, we did end up moving the battery as far back as we could get it, but I still had plenty of attempts that didn't go as I liked. I eventually was successful with doing some torque rolls down low. I suppose we can't fault Horizon too much for this one, because it's not really marketed as a 3D plane. We do love being surprised at aircraft that you can do things with that you wouldn't expect, such as the turbo timber. Getting this plane for 3D flying would be the equivalent of buying a Prius and expecting it to perform like a Tesla. When doing maneuvers outside the normal flight envelope, we decided it would be safest to replace the stock Velcro on the plane with UmaGrip, which we trust to secure most of our packs in various airplanes. The unfortunate side effect of trying to take off the stock Velcro was that it damaged the balsa wood of the battery tray, but no biggie. there is still enough real estate to purchase some land for the Umagrip, thankfully not at Manhattan studio apartment rates. Another aspect of the aircraft that we enjoyed was that, as with most planes, landings on hard surfaces are a real challenge. For one, she always wants to bounce back into the sky rather than settle on the earth if you don't nail the touchdown for a wheel landing. And two, wheel landings can result in a prop strike if you're not careful. We personally love the challenge, but understand it's not for everyone. If you do decide to get this aircraft and practice these things, you'll definitely make yourself a better pilot, stick and rudder-wise. It should be noted that we did have our gear break after a few flights experimenting with the plane.
Oh!
E-Flite. Telling you, man, some crappy flying. In the plane's defense, the impact caused for my crappy landing was pretty firm, but we do have impacts like this all the time with other planes without their gear breaking. The gear repaired easily with some foaming Gorilla Glue and is arguably now stronger than it was before. One-wheel landings on hard surfaces are another fun challenge with this bird, as with most low-wing planes. With limited wingtip clearance and an already difficult-to-wheel land airplane, there is very little room for error. We were impressed with how docile she was on the edge of her envelope. Stalls were surprisingly forgiving. There is very little wing drop, and as with most airplanes, all you really have to do is let go and she'll fly away safely. Just remember not to jam back in up elevator and expect it not to give you a secondary stall. Flying this bird in the wind is not a cakewalk. It was a fun challenge for sure, but it led to some hanger rash and some Michael Jordan-style basketball landings.
Ooh. Whoa. What the hell?
She's definitely a small bird and prefers calmer days. We love the scale details with this one. Not to mention, this is probably our favorite scheme that Horizon has come out with for one of their aircraft. But that's what this plane is to us, a hangar queen. Why would we take it out to the field when we could bring the Flex RV-8 that's capable of so much more? By all means, if what we mentioned doesn't bother you, go ahead and buy it. This plane is perfect for someone who loves the looks of a scale RV-7 and enjoys a lazy Sunday morning flying style. You can never really go wrong with an airplane put out by Horizon. Go check out the RV-8 review we put out and you'll see what we mean by comparison. They really are on two different levels. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like and consider subscribing as well. Let us know what you'd like to see done with the RV-7 to prevent it from becoming a permanent hangar queen. Happy landings and bounce one on for us. We'll see you next time with a new upload. Now I could blame that on the wind, I could blame it on the surrounding environment, but that just sucked.